Welcome to episode 237 of 3 Point Podcast. We're partnered with Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's undisputed leader in the industry, many locations throughout the state of Michigan. The Corona store, you can use that coupon code 3.20, and that'll get you 20% off Skymint products only and new customers only. And we've had some of our friends and acquaintances do just that. They're supporting the podcast. We can't encourage you any more than that. You know, it helps us out, helps them out. Everybody wins. And by the way, if you're a customer at another dispensary, make the switch. Also, if you're 21 and a cannabis user, check out the new Skymint Reserve featuring exceptional profiles, including special strains like Singapore Sling and Lemon 18. Like they say, it's the good stuff. And I saw the Who at Little Caesars last week, and man, they really sounded good, if you know what I'm talking about.
Probably could smell it all up and down that arena. Somehow people find a way to get it into those concerts. I remember Dave Matthews Band that was at Van Andel at Grand Rapids Indoor Arena. Big old cloud of smoke somehow at the top, even though it was not allowed, and it's all you could smell. So that's a great concert going thing.
Yeah.
To an extent, they may as well just sell it at the venue.
Yeah.
Don't act like you're not allowing it in. Just sell it.
I will tell you, though, it wasn't as bad there as it was at the Chi-Town show at Country Fest up in Franklin. Man, that place was a haze of smoke when we walked out of there. It was incredible.
Thought you were back at Cobo Arena or something.
Exactly.
Back in the 60s.
Kiss, man. Hey, we're also partnered with our good friends at Memorial Healthcare, home of the walk-in sports injury clinic, now open every Monday until mid-October. And at that Now Community Wellness Center, cold weather's upon us. Get healthy, get a membership at the Wellness Center. It's really reasonable, and it's all about staying healthy. I can't say it enough that it all starts with your health. You got to stay healthy if you want to have a good, productive life. So that is a promotional announcement by Ted the Old Guy. Also, I want to thank our local partners, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Grille Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We're going to have a jam-packed podcast. Our prep spotlight, we have high school playoff guru, Mr. Snooze to you, or as he likes to be called, Snooze. We're going to get some definitely good tips on our area playoff teams, how he got started. The guy is uncanny at the end of the regular season where he puts teams. I don't know what his rate is. Jared, maybe you know more than I do. He's at least 95%.
Yeah, I was going to say, the number I've always heard is like 99. I remember my senior year, the only team he got wrong was Corona. As funny as that sounds.
That's funny, yeah.
So he's basically like Joe Lenardi.
Exactly. And it's pretty cool.
High school football.
We'll see how much background we can get. He's a little bit quiet as far as his background. He wants to stay anonymous, and this is going to be kind of a fun little interview, I think. And we'll have him coming up next. And also stay tuned, because after that, we've got football to talk about. We're recording on Sunday evening. The Pitiful Lions, I don't know where we're going to go with that conversation. Michigan State, just what we've been talking about, and Michigan gets a win and drops in the AP poll. So we'll talk about all that stuff and a lot more. Tedtertainment tonight, too, coming up at the end. So good show coming up. Snooze to you coming up next, right after these important messages. Well, it's time for the Prep Spotlight presented by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. We got a special guest. This guy is uncanny with where he puts the playoff teams every single season. His site is Snooze to you. And joining us tonight, Snooze. Snooze, welcome to the podcast. And, first of all, you're pretty busy every week, right?
I'm busy every week, this time of year especially. As it gets to weeks 7, 8, 9, definitely busy. Personally, I'm selling my house and buying a condo as well, and it's busy at work. So, things are busy, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, as Ted mentioned, if anyone out there hasn't followed you, and if they like high school football as much as the four of us, you are a definite follow on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So at Snooze, the number 2, you, Snooze to you. If you like Michigan high school football, I think you are a definite follow. And I want to ask, where did this all come from? I know you enjoy high school football, but where did you just interested in covering the sport, predicting the playoffs? Where did you get your start doing this?
Well, I grew up. I never put on pads myself. I grew up, I went to a school that didn't have football until long after I graduated. So the passion for high school football actually came when I moved to East Grand Rapids, and for good reason. I mean, they were dominant for so many years. I moved there during the Barczewski era and then through the Peter Sturzma era, and it was just awesome. My oldest two daughters went through that system, and they got to play in the band for the state finals and all that, and it was cool. How I got into the mapetology, I really just kind of stumbled on it years ago. I'm sure Ted knows about the football forums on MLive. People would chat, not always so kindly, about their football teams, and
it's entertaining.
People were complaining about why. It was 2006, I believe. Coopersville played Zeeland West in the Division IV championship. And those are two teams over on my side of the state, west of Grand Rapids. And I just didn't understand how those two could be paired in the finals. If you're making the pairings geographically, that doesn't make sense, right? Because in general, it was a Detroit team against a team from somewhere else. But I literally just drew the map of Michigan on a piece of paper and plotted the points with a pencil. And, every map has to have a dividing line where the left side of the bracket versus the east side of the bracket goes. And that particular one, the Mason-Dixon line, if you will, just happened to cut right through those two little towns. And so I posted that on the MLive football forums. I just made my little website. The name is a play off of my high school basketball nickname. I didn't think anything would come of it. I actually own the rights to mapetology.com, but Snooze to You is kind of caught on, so I'm just sticking with it.
So when did it was it like the very first year you did it? Did a lot of the high school teams and coaches at that time sort of see your predictions and just started following it, and it just slowly built? Or was there like a media member who shouted you out, or how did it get so big?
I honestly don't know how it got so big. And I don't know really when I started predicting, as opposed to just presenting what the MHSAA came up with. I think I did start making predictions in 2007, but I have no documented proof, and I have no files or anything left from that. I don't. Well, you guys are from the other side of the state, but years ago, there was a writer for the Grand Rapids Press, Jane Boss, and she really promoted high school sports. I happened to graduate from high school with her, and in fact, her father was my basketball coach, and he's the one that named me Snooze. So we had that little relationship, but I think she may have publicized the website early on. I'm honestly not sure, but it just kind of snowballed. I didn't plan on having coaches, have my site be the go-to to see where they're going to end up. But it just kind of morphed into that. I've always been into geeky things. I used to, make up tournaments on my own because I grew up. My siblings were all much older. I was kind of an only child, and I would construct brackets just for the fun of constructing brackets. So it's right up my alley there.
No, I get that. I whenever I'd have like a youth game, with my buddies in the backyard or whatever, I'd be the one, drawing up the bracket. So I get it. What goes into what all are you looking at when you're coming up with these predictions? It's obviously geography. They have the points. But what might I not understand about what goes into kind of setting these district brackets and everything?
Well, the last 2 or 3 years, it's become much more simple with the predetermined divisions. Previous to that, there was actually some statistical analysis as far as how many Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D schools to take each week to make it mimic how the divisions would play out, because there were teams that just didn't know, I'm not going to be Division II or Division III, I don't know, and That was when I think my website was most useful, honestly, for coaches. But now to answer your question, now the MHSAA has a page on their website. It lists every school in every division, and you can sort them by playoff points, and that's how the teams are picked right now. So anybody can grab the 32 teams for each division, as I do now. But as far as placing them on the map, I've written my own software. I've thought about putting making an app out of it.
Right.
Of course, that would take time, and at the moment, I don't have time. I do have time in the off season, but I never really think about doing it then. But I have my own little proprietary software it plots all the pins on the map, and they're all solid colors. I don't have any names of teams or anything like that. So anyone that claims I'm biased against their team, I got news for you. I don't care about your team. There's like 5 teams in the state that I care about. I'm not trying to screw over your team. I'm doing this geographically. So I come up with a rough draft, and then I just kind of refine it. I can move teams around and whatnot. One thing I do that I don't think the MHSAA does is once the teams are in place, it shows me what the seedings would be if in that configuration. And if there's a situation where a 1 seed and a 4 seed are really far apart, and the 2 and 3 are really far apart, and if I can just move one team and make it much less travel, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think MHSAA does that, but I don't feel like I'm cheating doing that.
Right.
But it's entirely geographical. I don't care that your district has 3 of the top 5 teams in it. Well, I shouldn't say it. It's not that I don't care. It's that I'm playing by the rules that MHSAA plays by. So if I want this to be realistic, then that's what I have to do. So people can cry to me that they have to play the same team every year in round 1. Not my problem. Some of the teams I root for have that same situation. So that's
I got a 2-part question for you, Snooze. Number 1, what's the best percentage you've had after week 9? Setting the playoffs are. Do you have a percentage like 95% accurate? And number 2, has the MHSAA ever reached out to you to be part of their war room when they put the tournament together?
Part 1 is easy. I don't keep track.
Okay.
And that's one of the questions I get asked most. Yeah. I know that in the past others have kept track. It doesn't bother me if I'm not 100%. What does bother me if I feel like the MHSAA did something stupid.
Yeah.
A lot of times their maps differ from mine, but it's a legitimate, if you send this team west, then all the dominoes fall. Right. And if you send them east and it's an equal choice, I don't mind if I differ from theirs. They haven't asked me to be part of the war room. If anyone from MHSAA is listening to this, and why wouldn't they?
Of course.
It's an open. I volunteer to be on any committee to do such things. I've offered, and I'm kind of joking, but I really would do it if they asked. But I have a very good relationship with MHSAA. They, for years, they appreciated all the answers that I gave to questions that they got repeatedly about, why is my team ranked in Division 7, but they're Division 6 on your maps and whatever. That's because the divisions weren't set back then.
Right.
And why is now the questions are, why is this 3 let's go to the end of the season. Why is this 4 and 5 team in and my 5 and 4 team is not in? Right. Those are the kind of questions now that I answer that they don't have to answer. Furthermore, I kind of act as a quality assurance for their website because I put it to the test a lot, especially before the season begins. I make sure that all the team names are correct, and by correct I mean that the school names either haven't changed, which they often did in the past, or if they did change, that it was an intentional change. A lot of times just an HS would show up after a team's name, such and such high school or whatever.
Yeah.
Please get rid of that HS because it's messing up my whole database,
Right.
But I keep track of, when they're missing an out-of-state team. I hunt down a lot of scores for them, things behind the scene. And I'm not complaining by any means. I'm rewarded by basically a free access to everywhere in Ford Field on Thanksgiving weekend. And
Nice.
I just absolutely eat that up. So
yeah, it's such a cool tradition. Thanksgiving weekend, just you lock into Bally Sports Detroit, right, Jared, and you just watch all those games, and it is really good. It's much better to be there, much better to be at Ford Field. But my last question for you, Snooze, is like you mentioned, we're from the other side of the state. We're in the middle of the state. Corona, Division 5 this year. They're looking pretty good. They've got one loss, but they're looking like they're poised to maybe make a little noise in the postseason. What are you slating currently? I know it's going to change, but for Corona in D5.
Well, hot off the presses, I just put out my Week 7 mapatology, which is what I call my playoff projections. And your Cavaliers are in an interesting place geographically, in that last week I believe I had them going east on the right side of the bracket.
Yep, Frank and Move.
And now they're in the left side of the bracket, and it happens to be east and west, but it always doesn't work out that way. But as far as the power of the district and all that kind of stuff, I can't tell you guys that because but as far as where I think they're going to end up, I don't know. It really depends on the 32 teams that are in Division 5. And
but you can tell us where you got them right now, right?
Exactly. If this is the 32 teams, Corona is the one team that maybe kind of sticks out on that map. It seems to kind of not belong on the left side, but that happens. Somebody pointed out just a few minutes ago in Division 2 and Division 4, two of their teams, it was the same thing. I think it was Dexter and Chelsea kind of got pulled over to the other side of the state, and it's just a numbers game. I need 16 on the left and 16 on the right, and when you live in the center of the state like you guys do, you could get pulled north, south, east, or west. And I'd like to touch on that too. A lot of people look at their little area and they say, this is silly. There's 3 other teams within 5 miles of us. Why isn't that our district? Well, what I tell them is try to map out how that would affect the whole rest of the state, and you very quickly run out of teams. So
Snooze, we got to reel you in. Where do you got Corona? Who are the other 3 teams you got tonight? What do you got there?
Tonight I have Corona as a 1 seed hosting Olivet. Okay. And the 2 and 3 is Williamston at Portland.
Right.
That's pretty close to what you had a couple weeks ago. That's what had me curious.
Yeah. In fact, I think I've had you more along these lines than last week. I think last week was the outlier. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, last week you had them. You had Corona, in the Frankenmuth district. That whole side of things. So I think if you're a Corona fan, I hate to say it, neither district seems to be a good draw. Either got to go against Frankenmuth, and Swan Valley's a tough team, or we know how tough Portland and Williamston usually are in the Lansing area. So it's not good, I would say, for Corona fans.
I'd prefer to see them go that way.
I was going to ask you, what would you prefer, Portland or Frankenmuth? I don't know. It's pretty
right. It's tough either way you go, honestly, if I'm being honest. I have one final question for you, Snooze. You know this system better than anybody. We've seen that they finally made a couple changes, in the past couple years that we've been kind of waiting to see. Like you said, setting the divisions before the season, and then now it's not all about winning 6 games. Is there anything you would change about how the MHSAA decides the playoff points and how they do their whole playoff system in general? Is there anything glaring that you would really want to change?
I don't think there's anything glaring. I think it's a huge improvement over what it used to be. Frankly, there were teams that made the playoffs at 6-3 that had no business being in the playoffs. They would purposely schedule cupcakes, or maybe that's just the hand they're dealt.
Right.
I don't know, but I think that the current system does a better job of getting the best 32 teams in each division. Having said that, when they first announced the formula, I knew a whole lot more about it then than I do now.
Right.
So I don't remember the particulars, but I believe I would tweak just a little bit of the values that you're given for losing to a team. And I don't remember the particulars of that, but I played around with it a little bit a couple of years ago, and I thought, oh, if they just change this one little thing, it would be slightly better. But I really do think it's a pretty good system.
Are you talking about, because teams will schedule like a higher division team just because they know if they lose to them, they're still getting a good amount of points. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's not how you should schedule. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but at the other side of the coin, they were scheduling weak teams to get 6 wins.
Right.
You know, and that's no good either.
Yeah.
Exactly. And still you can schedule a weaker Division I school and get a lot of points for beating them, even if they don't beat other teams. But I know that there's a lot of talk, and I heard it on the field this past Friday about there's momentum for having an all-in playoff, having an 8-game season, and then just everybody gets in starting in week 9. I'm not in favor of that for it would put me out of business because they would prearrange the districts, which, nobody needs me for that. Right.
Right.
And, but apart from that, I just don't think that right now it's slightly over half the teams get in. And if you add another week, that first week of playoffs is just going to be, 70-0. Half the games are just going to be blowouts. And I'm not in favor of that. If they wanted to do something where, teams that don't make the playoffs can all pair up and play one more game or something, cool. I'm okay with that. But I wouldn't add more teams to the field.
I have one more question now that you got me thinking on it. An idea I've kind of thrown around, and this is what the MHSAA used to be, the 4 divisions. I still think basketball has it right. With 4 divisions, I think that's the true mark of a championship team. That really means the Final Four means something when you get to the Breslin Center. I sometimes feel like with this 8-division playoff system currently that I feel like there's maybe some years and there's some divisions every year where I feel like a champion's not really deserving, or a team that makes it to Ford Field ends up being a blowout. Would you shorten the divisions at all, or do you think 8 is the right number?
I think each year we're creeping closer to 8 being too many, and maybe we're already there. I wouldn't go down to 4. I could see definitely going down to 7, maybe 6.
Yeah.
4. I understand your basketball argument, but I would throw back at you that in basketball, 1 or 2 really good players can make a huge difference.
Right.
Whereas football, you need 11 guys on both sides. Well, a lot of two-way players, of course, but you need a lot more kids. And I think that enrollment is more important in football than in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be my argument for more than 4.
Yeah, realistically, we have 10 classes when you go to the 2 in Division 8 or 8-man football rather. I got one final question for you. I don't even know if anybody has this answer. You're one of the top prep guys in the state. We love what you do. Everybody goes to your site to check things out. And then there's another guy. I have no clue who he is. I have no idea, but as much time as he puts into it, the Michigan High School football site, which has every school, every score, all kinds of historical data. Do you happen to know who that dude is?
I know his name. It doesn't rattle off my tongue.
No, that's fine.
Right.
I know it's a guy in Kalamazoo, and it's basically just a database of all the games since 1950.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a good resource.
And he keeps it up to date every week. I mean, it's
Yes.
amazing. It's got to take some time, just like what you do. Well, Snooze, it's been a pleasure having you on here with us, catching up on what's going on in high school football, our prep spotlight. It's been great. Tell our listeners, the best spot to follow what you got going on.
Well, you mentioned my Twitter account. That's where I'm most active. It's Snooze, the number 2, and then YOU.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same handle on Instagram. I'm actually I'm tweeting less on Friday nights. I used to try to retweet every score in the state. I'm getting old, and now I just like to follow my one team. So I take a lot of video and I post that on Instagram. So it's the same handle on Instagram, SNOOZE, the number 2 YOU. I make an appearance on Facebook every now and then, but frankly, I don't like it. But again, same thing. I think I'm Snooze to you there as well.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the time. Good stuff.
I appreciate you guys having me. I love your podcast, and go Corona.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. I mean, Mr. Snooze there, or Snooze, if you will. That was a lot of fun. And but we got to get back to reality now. We are recording Sunday. The Detroit Lions, I thought they were past the hump for these pitiful games, but my goodness, pitiful performance, pitiful effort, and pitiful coaching. I don't know what else you guys got to add.
I think it's all of those. The effort. I know there was that scary injury,
Right.
at the beginning of the game. Really odd injury, but it might have taken some wind out of their sails, maybe. But it's the effort, and you don't want to be that guy that questions professional football players' effort. We're not the ones out there running around getting tackled or doing all that stuff. But when you watch the game, the Patriots aren't that good. Like they made the Patriots look like they were back in like the Tom Brady era or something. And the coaching decisions, I mean, what'd they end up? 0 for 6, 0 for 7 on fourth down?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we fans, you love it. Go for it on fourth down. This is exciting. But there's definitely times you shouldn't do it. And us as fans, we've watched football a lot. We know those times. I'm starting to, I don't want to, 5 games in, I don't want to punt on Dan Campbell after we were so excited in the offseason, but I don't know, man. He's starting to show, like, is he ever going to get it? That's my question.
I mean, the fourth down thing, the one glaring one to me was, and I'll be honest, before this game, and this is an argument I had with my dad, a couple years ago, back when I was still at the homestead. I always loved watching Red Zone. He's always been, a staunch, kind of cut from Ted's cloth, that generation where he's just Lions around on Sundays. I'm watching them. I don't care if they're 0-15. We're watching them.
Right.
I was already at this point, man. And this whole year was finally when I finally swung back the pendulum to I'm all on Lions. I watch Lions at 1 o'clock, 1 to 4:25. Before this game even started, I didn't even debate it. I was Red Zone only. I'm already at that point. That was before the game even started. So when at first play I see on Red Zone, it's 4th and 9, like a 52-yard field goal, I believe it would have been. Jared Goff spins out, which is maybe the most unathletic looking move you've ever seen with your own 2 eyes. And Matt Judon, GVSU product, strip sack, and there's a ball game right now. At that point, it was 6-0 with New England with Bailey Zappi at quarterback.
Right.
I don't know what the decision was. That just shows maybe this defense was really that bad. I mean, at one point this year, they went 17 straight possessions without having the other team punt against guys like Geno Smith and Zappi.
Right.
So it's just is it really just this defense is that bad that Matt Campbell said, I'm not going to pin these guys deep in a game that could be like a 12-9 type game? He basically leveraged the entire game on that play. And wouldn't you know it, strip sack, fumble, return all the way for a touchdown. And that was basically all she wrote. The team just looked uninspired. It's depressing because you always thought that was the thing that this team was always going to be able to hang their hat on with Campbell at the helm, is that they're always going to be hard. But maybe they're just that bad where it's like, man, now that the momentum is all out of their sails last week after Seattle, the heartbreaker against the Vikings, maybe they really are just kind of done. We knew how important it was heading into this season, those first 4 weeks, to at least be 2-2. Most likely we would have wished to have been 3-1. But now that all the wins out of their sails and they're just depleted with injury, this is a last place team, literally probably a last place team in the NFL.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's nothing you've said that I don't disagree with. I mean, and I agree with you too, man. I'm not going to jump completely off the Campbell bandwagon, but I'm telling you what, it's very fair to question what the hell this guy is thinking on the sidelines. I mean, not only the 4th and 9, which is, you just don't do that in the NFL in that situation. You got to kick it. You got to kick it.
Especially because earlier, I mean, who knows? I don't even know who they signed as their kicker. Who was their place kicker today? I don't even know because they've been cycling through guys. But like earlier this week, I saw Bill Belichick even said that their punter, Jack Fox, he's like the best in the league. He said like he's such a weapon and stuff. So it's like you said, Jared, it was only 6-0 at that time. The defense was playing okay. Yeah. So it's like, if you've got this weapon as a punter, try and pin him deep. It's the same thing against the Vikings a couple weeks ago. Like you said, why are you Jared Goff? It's not like you have Lamar Jackson, where if he needs a scramble, he might be able to do it. 4th and 9 from midfield, when your O-line is already looking like the Patriots defensive line is, taking care of them. It was just stupid. I don't understand it. When you're playing Madden, you go for it on 4th down, like every time. And it's like, it seems like that's what Campbell's doing. He's just trying to like play that tough guy. I'm like not your typical head coach. I'm going to go for it on 4th down all the time and all that stuff. And it's just like, you're almost like watching it. I think we said it probably before the season or, a week or two in. If they start off like this, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, something like that, how long will it take him to lose the team? Everyone during Hard Knocks is all rah, rah. We love this guy, biting kneecaps, let's go, knocking heads. They suck. I mean, they're terrible. So like, how long is it going to take for those players to be like, this head coach doesn't know what the hell he's doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. You wonder if it's already happened. I mean,
today's the day.
it's, I don't know if it's him. I think that the scapegoat of this is probably going to be Aaron Glenn. I mean, does he survive like the next 3 weeks? Let's say they lose the next 3 games. I think he's probably the first domino to fall. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. I was impressed with him on Hard Knocks, but it's like, how do you look at this defense? I mean, look at these points they've given up: 38, 27, 28, 48, 29. I mean, dear God.
It doesn't help when like 5 of your defensive backs have gotten hurt, but I agree with you.
I think in fairness, I mean, it is tough. I mean, what are they going to gain if they can him right now during this part of the season? Ride it out. Try to right the ship. I mean, the guy obviously seems to be a good guy. The players like him. Let's look at the facts, guys. This team's not very good. And we talked about it before it began. It's like a lot of NFL teams, they didn't have any depth. I mean, how many more defensive backs are they going to go through? And they were shit to begin with, for the most part. Okudah went back to being crap today, it seemed like. I mean, it was uninspiring defensive performance. They gave up 29. The top offense in the league. What the hell happened there? Again,
I forgot what they were doing. Yep.
Didn't know what they were doing. Coaching, I mean, obviously 4th and 9, but that isn't even the worst on all those 4th downs. 4th and 6 times they tried it. How many more times are you going to run a running back up the middle on 4th down?
Middle. Right.
I mean, how many more times?
It's not like you have Derrick Henry or, I know Jamal Williams, he runs hard, but it's not like you have some bruiser, AJ Dillon, with the Packers. Like, stop running up the middle, please. I would rather see Jared Goff roll out, like do something different if you're going to go for it. And that's what it's just coming down to. And, there were all the questions when they hired Dan Campbell about if he could be a head coach, and you give him the first year, because that team last year was just very bad. The roster, we've said it, they improved the roster a little bit this year, but you have to try and take a step back. Like, you can't fix everything in one off season. So maybe we had unrealistic expectations after Hard Knocks and the draft and everything. But it's just, we kept saying, I think last week or the week before, you're like, you got to give him another year. You can't get rid of him after 2 years. This was such a big rebuild after what Patricia did to the team. It's almost like you have to give him that 3rd year to be like, okay, I think, Jared, you said it. It's almost the 3rd year is almost like a put up or shut up. If you're not showing improvement in the 3rd year, then you're done. But just all these decisions, how many times is he going to apologize in the post-game presser? I lost this for the team. I made the bad decision. I did this. Don't blame the players. It's on me. It's like, cool. I appreciate your honesty, but please stop making these stupid decisions.
Here's I think the sad reality. We see this team. They're not good. I don't know what would change between this year and next year that would, besides like maybe if we are top 2 or 3 draft pick, like get a stud quarterback and just like hope that maybe that restarts the Campbell cycle. But I don't know how you, looking into your crystal ball, how do you see him keeping his job next year?
Right.
This team is not going to go 500 next year, most likely. We had all the positive momentum rolling into this year, and it just totally backfired. We're going to have no positive momentum next year, I would guess, unless we finish this year on a tear, which I don't see happening. I seriously think he's a dead man walking, which is sad to say. I had higher hopes for this regime. The way the NFL works, man, I seriously do think he's got a numbered amount of days before the act comes down on his head.
I agree with your take on that. I think dead man walking is a pretty good description. He's playing for his job. He's playing for his job this season. I mean, if they finish with 2 or 3 wins, he's out. I think bring in a veteran coach with this decent roster at certain positions, see what they can do.
He's playing for his career, or coaching for his career too, because no one else is going to hire him as a head coach if this keeps going south. You know what I mean? So I think kind of what you said, Jared. I agree. Like if they finish, say they win their last 2 games, 3 games, or they finish winning 4 out of 5, and say like Jamison Williams comes back and plays, and he's looking like, ooh, this kid's for real. Say Hutchinson picks it up a little bit, down the stretch, or whatever. If they get some of that momentum, have another pretty good draft, draft a couple good guys that
get
look
a quarterback.
A quarterback. Maybe then we're back to next year in the same spot we were, like, oh, look at this, we're promising and all that. But where do you guys stand before we move on to Michigan and Michigan State? Where do you guys stand on the Hutchinson thing? I mean, he's getting blasted on Twitter, and again, like I said last week, I made a point a few times to watch him. He gets double teamed a lot. He seems like he's like just like a bat out of hell running at the quarterback, like out of control. Like he gets a ton of pressures. He gets by his blockers a lot, but then he whiffs on the tackles. I think people have to remember he is a rookie. He's still figuring it out. He's got to figure out his moves, maybe stuff like that. But the people already obviously calling for him to be a bust. It's like, let's not go
way
that far.
too early for that.
Here, it's like you nailed it. It's like he's getting this pressure on these quarterbacks, but he's a chicken with his head cut off.
Right.
It reminds me of like if you play Madden and you just let the CPU like control these like other, like let's say we had Aaron Donald on my team. I'm controlling the Los Angeles Rams. If the computer controls Aaron Donald like rushing, it doesn't matter if it's Jared Goff on the other side. Like you're going to be able to elude him super easily. Like you can't sprint unless you're user controlling somebody. So that's kind of what it feels like, where it's like, yeah, he's getting by, but unless I user switch into Aiden Hutchinson, like you might as well not even be rushing the passer because you're not going to make the tackle. Yeah. It's kind of confusing. Like Zappy just toyed with him today on one play. It's just funny watching Hudson like chase him down. He's just like shaking his head as he's running him down. How many times are we going to watch this? It just seems so, that doesn't seem like something you learn as you go. It's just like make the tackle on these guys.
Well, he did the cardinal sin for a defensive end. I mean, he let Zappy get outside. He just was going too fast. He totally whiffed, and he took the wrong route to the quarterback. I mean, I think you can make adjustments on that. And like I said, it's too early to say he's a bust. He is a rookie. Put a few more players on that defensive team. I mean, let's look at it this way, guys. Goff's not the long-term answer at quarterback. No. Maybe we were looking in the wrong kind of mirrors last week in the start of the season. But if they can be in good position to draft somebody like Alabama's quarterback or another good quarterback coming out of the draft, I guess they got to look at that as priority number 1. But then every other draft choice should be defense. 100%.
No, we should be drafting a quarterback. I don't care how this year wraps up.
Right.
Just take a quarterback, man. It's not rocket science. The best franchises do it. If you are hurting, like look at Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars right now. It's like within a year they've just totally been turned around. They would beat the Lions on a neutral field probably by 2 scores.
Do you think there's anything to the rumors I was hearing a couple of weeks ago? Isn't Baltimore's quarterback going to be a free agent? Is that
he did say that the Lions would be on his short list of teams he'd want to go after. I mean, I
think he was watching Hard Knocks.
That came out.
I think he was excited about Hard Knocks.
You might be right.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's why it was so important to just have like some semblance of a good year this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people all saw that. And if people were really pulling for the Lions, and if you just kept some sort of momentum going, if you beat Seahawks, if you beat Minnesota, even if we lose this week against Patriots, if we lose the next 3 weeks, like at least we could have had something to build off of. There's nothing to build. There's nothing to attract free agents other than straight cash. I don't know what would bring you here.
Especially losing to the teams. I mean, the Vikings might end up winning the division if we're being honest, but losing
Probably.
to the Seahawks and the Patriots, who were looking like two of the worst teams along with the Lions in the league. That's what, right. To proves your point, Jared. That's what it's like. You can't even beat the teams you're supposed to beat, So, and the flip side of that, unless you guys have more Lions stuff, we got the Spartans over there in Spartan Stadium just getting run out of East Lansing by the Buckeyes. And I don't know about you guys, but I see a lot of Spartan fans saying like they expected to lose. I mean, typical. Don't want to take a shot at our Spartan friends, but they when they're high, and they're going to run their mouths. But when they're low, it's
You don't
like
hear anything.
we expected to lose. We didn't think that we'd even compete with them. And
even certain columnists are making that comment that we weren't going to beat Ohio
dignity.
State.
How do you say you're losing with dignity when
How
you
dumb
give
was
up
that?
614 yards to the Buckeyes, but
tripled their yards.
And we're not trying to bash on the Spartans. I mean, we kind of took some shots at Mel Tucker. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said last week. I don't know how you can't question how this guy is going to be as a head coach developing, because the one thing that they were supposed to be improved at this year was defense, because they brought back most of their defense from last year's team. He's a defensive backs coach. He's supposed to be, that's what he's done his whole career. CJ Stroud was just toying with them. I mean, the one pick six was just a complete miscommunication with his receiver, but Stroud, 6 touchdowns. And I saw something he's got like in his career against Michigan State, he has 12 touchdown passes and only 8 incompletions. Like, I mean, think about that's insane, So like, I saw another stat before you guys jump in. Mel Tucker's been a Power 5 head coach for 22 games. Half of them he's lost by double digits.
Oh, geez.
And it's like he's just not. He's getting blown out. And you think about last year. I think Jared, you've mentioned that last year was very lucky for them. They had Kenneth Walker. I think all of their victories were by single digits. Like they weren't blowing teams out. They were getting pretty lucky. So I say all that to say, like, I'm very curious to see how Michigan State ends the season. Obviously, against Michigan is the big one, but
Super Bowl.
I mean, they've got Wisconsin. They still have some tough games. Penn State and Illinois looks improved. So it's like they might only win 3 games. They might end up with only 3 or 4 wins. And I don't think people, again, we said they're paying Tucker too much money. They're not firing him, but man, you have to start questioning some stuff.
Well, I would question the upper management of the university doling out that $95 million contract in the first place. I mean, I don't blame Tucker. Take it all day long. And but why would you think you had to lock that guy in for 10 years at $9.5 million? I just don't even understand that. You think he's that big of a commodity just coming in with his resume that he had? That just blew my mind right from the very beginning.
I see people saying like that's just the going rate for head coaches. And it's like for proven head coaches, for Dabo Sweeney and, Jimbo Fisher and stuff like that. It's like, this guy wasn't proven. I don't think teams were like lining up to hire him. USC, LSU, that wasn't happening. So
hell, he was their second choice, wasn't he?
Listen, you are talking about the same administration that wouldn't let their best coach ever. Basically, they kicked him to the curb, man. Like, you can't forget that. State fans like to ignore it, act like everything ended so amicably, but it's you can't disregard what happened to D'Antonio. And it's like the curse of D'Antonio. Honestly, I hope that we start something like that, and it really gains up some traction, over the next few years. All you need to know about Mel Tucker versus Ohio State: 157-39 in 3 games against Ryan Day. You would think Ryan Day is Nick Saban. You would think Ohio State is Alabama, the way that these are writers and the way that Mel Tucker was answering in postgame.
Mm-hmm.
When asked if improvement from last year's 56-7 loss to Ohio State in Columbus, Tucker responded that he quote unquote needed to watch the tape. So he's even like off, like maybe we're better than last year.
Right.
Like I said, it's like you would think they're going. It's like you would think this is like a Eastern Michigan heading into Michigan, Ann Arbor for like a game to measure themselves. Well, it's 2 Big Ten foes. One that D'Antonio, I feel like he had a winning record against Ohio State, or pretty damn close, right around 500. And he won some big ones against them. I mean,
usually
what a
very
change
competitive in
their identity. It's embarrassing. 7 straight games of 500 plus yards against them. What is this team? What if you're a recruit? What is bringing you to the land of East Lansing? I couldn't tell you what is intriguing. Is it their prolific offense? Can't say that's a thing. I mean, they have a quarterback who's supposed to have this breakout year this year, and he's looked terrible. This running game, 7 yards of rushing. This isn't like where D'Antonio would hang his hat on if you're a stud running back, Le'Veon Bell, all the other ones they had, LJ Scott, come here and we're going to hand it to you 30 times a game and you're going to run for 1,500 yards in a season. And our defense is going to battle their ass off. What is there? There's nothing. The defense is terrible. The offense is terrible. Their social media presence is embarrassing. The fan base is tucked their tail between their legs, and they're just accepting this. I just don't understand how they've really fallen off. I get that they won a lot of those games by a touchdown last year, but I mean, I know K9 was good, but how do you rush for 7 yards against Ohio State at home?
Right.
And it's a disgrace watching that crowd after it. They panned around the shots, man. There's no one there, which I don't blame them. I wouldn't be there either.
Well, I think the majority of the fans were Ohio State fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that happen in Michigan, Ohio State games before, so it's like you can't totally.
No, I know.
Laugh at that, but it's it's embarrassing. I love a good Michigan State matchup. We got it last year. We had it every year with D'Antonio, other than maybe one or two. What is there to root for in this Michigan State game this year? I circled the calendar. I took the dates off. October 29th. I'm going to the tailgate. I can't wait. I got buddies going. Why do I want to go now? It crossed my mind. Like, why am I even going to this?
Yeah.
There's going to be no energy. It's just it's sad.
Oh, there'll be energy.
There's always going to be. I get what you're saying, Jared. Yeah, there's always going to be energy. The energy is Harbaugh hasn't beaten Tucker, so I mean he's got to pick up a win. Michigan might be undefeated. They might be still making a run for the playoff. There's all that stuff, and then there's we remember the game that Shea Patterson basically ended D'Antonio's career when they beat Michigan State 49-7 or 30, whatever that score was. That's what you want when you're seeing Ohio State do what they did to Michigan State. Michigan fans want to do the same thing and just, like everything you've said, Jared, push it all aside. Like, who are you guys? What is all this social media stuff? What is all this tuck coming? And what is all this stuff? We're going to beat you 49-3. And, we're just going to show you that we're still the better program in the state. Will it happen? I don't know, because Ted, you've been watching for 100 years and Michigan has lost many times when they should have beaten Michigan State.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that the game still has to be played, but I think you're spot on, Jared. There's no identity. At least the D'Antonio era. I mean, they had some years in the 90s where they were pretty good. Saban had a couple good teams, but the D'Antonio era, I mean, you're spot on. They always had an identity. Either their defense was just dominant, they had a dominant run game, and you could always count on it. Last year, obviously, was Kenneth Walker. They're going to hand it to him 75 times a game, and they're going to win. What do you do? I mean, Thorne to Reed? I guess that's their identity.
I guess I don't understand what they're trying to build. Are they trying to become like Ohio State or something with this high-flying offense?
Right.
I mean, believe me, you're not Marvin Harrison Jr., C.J. Stroud. They're not walking through East Lansing anytime soon under this current regime unless they really change things around. I just don't understand what this identity is. I thought that what I was expecting to get was D'Antonio Jr., the Alabama, Nick Saban coaching tree, the Spartan Dogs mentality. And I feel like we've been bamboozled a bit where it's not that at all. They got lucky last year. I mean, we'll see. I know I'm not dismissing this Michigan State game entirely. We know what can happen. So that's not going to be a surprise if Michigan State does battle us and maybe even beats us. I'd be the first one to raise my hand and say I saw that coming, because I don't know what to make of this Michigan team either. Through this point in the season, there's still a lot to be told. I mean, we know Corum's a stud. He's probably the best Michigan back I've ever seen in my lifetime. We know that JJ has some electricity to him. We know this defense has, surprised us a bit. They seem to be better than what we expected. But I don't feel any better about this team heading into this Penn State matchup than I did at the start of the season. I still feel like it's still very unknown what this team is going to be. Yeah.
I think similar to what you said about Michigan State, what is Michigan's true identity? I think we all know what Harbaugh is. They're going to run, and that's Corum, like you're talking about. But then this week, I mean, I could look it up real quick. I know JJ threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but they threw the ball like 35, 38 times.
36, yeah.
36. So it's like, okay, so you got this electric quarterback. So are you going to start to try and, air it out? You still going to hand the ball to Corum 30 times? It's kind of what you're saying about Michigan State. Yeah, like what exactly is the identity going to be? Or is it going to be game to game? If Corum is just feasting, okay, keep giving him the ball.
Right.
If the defense is stopping him, all right, JJ, you're going to throw the ball 40 times.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is. And you're spot on. The defense has been surprising, especially the defensive line. The kid Oki, who came in, kind of right before the season, he's looking like he's the next Ojabo. He's about to get drafted or something. And they've got some other guys, Mike Morris and Mozzie Smith. I mean, the defensive line is very good. So I'm not too worried about the defense just because I loved last year's defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, coming from the Ravens coaching tree, and Jesse Minter, he came basically right from the same coaching tree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost like not worried about the defense. They play that bend, don't break. They're going to give up some yards. They're going to give up some third and longs because they play a lot of like man coverage. So there's going to be some frustrating times, but like they rarely do you see their defense just give up like long touchdown drives or, like 40 points in a game. The Ohio State game, I'll be curious to see, but I'm almost like the defense. I'm almost like, I'm cool with them. The defense is who they're going to be good. They're going to be solid. It's the offense. I'm just like, I don't want to see, we all love when Blake Corum runs the ball for 30 times for 200 yards. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see JJ air it out. And
see, I disagree, man. I love this. I don't think we beat Ohio State. I mean, you saw Ohio State. Wow.
Yeah.
Stroud.
Tough.
I mean, if we get into a throwing match with Ohio State, we might as well just leave the players in Ann Arbor and send the bus empty because it's going to be a loss.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of realized that McCarthy is not Stroud. We kind of had that thought. He's still young, still got a couple years to develop. But as of now, I don't think we're going to be able to beat Ohio State or beat a Georgia or an Alabama by throwing the rock. Maybe we can't do it by running, but I know for sure we're not going to lose a game to Indiana, to maybe a Penn State, to Michigan State if we just keep the ball on the ground, don't turn it over, let Corum, run for 150 plus. Edwards, have him spell him a little bit. That's the recipe, in my opinion, for this team to have a similar season to last year. How do you guys feel heading into Penn State? Last year, if you remember, it was kind of a big sort of judgment call week last year at Penn State. I think Penn State's maybe a little bit better this year. I think Michigan's maybe a little bit worse, but we do have it at home this year. I still think it's like a pick 'em. I could go either way. I don't know. I would say Michigan's going to be favored. Obviously, they will be because it's Michigan, but I don't feel confident at all going into this one.
No. Oh, I agree with you. I mean, it's going to be a tough one. And, just before we get into that too much, just back to the Indiana game, the offense did worry me a little bit, but let's remember that Mike Hart went down with that seizure.
Yeah.
That definitely messed with a lot of the team, especially the running backs, but I would like to see them be more consistent as far as mixing it up, not run first down, not run second down, pass third down. Be definitely mix it up, run reverses, run flea flickers, whatever it takes, I'd be more happy that. Now going in the Penn State game, it's been pretty quiet with James Franklin, and this is a pretty good Penn State team. Michigan's got to play their A game to beat them, I think, man. Yeah. It's going to be tough.
Luckily, they've had success at home against James Franklin. I think that's big. If it was at Penn State, maybe a different story. I guess to me, I just feel like with Michigan right now, I'm not saying they're going to win the national title. I feel like at least with the teams on their schedule, if they play their game, they should be good. If they're not getting caught up, kind of like what you said, Jared, if they're not getting caught up, getting outside of their comfort zone, if they're not turning the ball over, if they play their game, Corum has a good game. JJ McCarthy does what he has to do. He hits the receivers, all that kind of stuff. I feel like they can beat everyone on their schedule, until Ohio State. Ohio State will be obviously the big one. So I think that's the big thing to me. Just play your game. You don't have to go outside, what you do. Just play your game.
And now that you say that, tell me you guys can't see this being our downfall against an Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan State or whoever. Something about these offensive coordinators is worrisome to me. The fact that there's no clear one offensive coordinator. I mean, there's a reason Saban's not doing this. There's a reason Belichick's not doing this. You've never seen two offensive coordinators, or if you have, it's very, 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 very rare. I worry about them, kind of getting too caught up in a game, caught up in McCarthy. The wide receivers we have, where all of a sudden you look at like a box score in the third quarter, Corum has 2 carries, Edwards has 4 carries or whatever, and we've thrown the ball 30 times. And we just could totally forget our identity. I feel like as long as we don't do that, as long as we still stay committed to the run, I don't think Ohio State's going to be able to stop our run. I don't see Penn State stopping our run. No Big Ten team is going to be able to stop our run consistently, I don't think. So
Indiana did for a while. Indiana did for a while.
Yeah, they did, I guess. But you also have, Corn breaking off 50-yarders. And
he had the one good run.
I'm not saying we can totally just 100% rely on the run. Obviously, we still need McCarthy, but it has to be the same sort of setup like what we had last year with Cade. Play action pass,
right?
First down throw to mix it up every now and again. But don't forget like what got you here, and that is the offensive line, and that's a running game, and that's
can't argue with that.
Defense.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you said, Ted. Like, you got to mix it up a little bit. There in the first half against Indiana, it seemed like they were kind of like what you're saying, Jared. Let's just rely on Corum. Let's just hand him the ball. Let's just have him ride it out. And Indiana was blitzing like 7 guys. They were like, no, you're not doing that. Second half, they said, all right, we got to throw a little bit here. We got to, let JJ cook, as people are saying. And, obviously it worked out very well. They basically shut Indiana completely down in the second half. Right. So,
I have a bit of a hot take. It's not totally against what we're talking about with Michigan. It just kind of dawned on me when I realized Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson have called the last 4 straight Michigan games, which they must be like swearing under their breath when they're about to put on that headset for the 4th straight week for a Michigan game. None of them have been good games. None of them. This season has been very disappointing just in college football in general. I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, just look at this. It's not only Gus and Joel that have felt this. I mean, Kirby and Fowler, who called the best games every week. I mean, look at what the games they have called this year. Notre Dame versus Ohio State week 1. That really kind of ended up not being a super great game. USC versus Stanford, who even really cared about that one. Miami A&M. I don't think a single person watched that game outside of Miami or outside of Texas. Wisconsin versus Ohio State, blowout from the start. NC State versus Clemson, just an ACC matchup nobody could really give 2 shits about. And then last week, Ohio State versus Michigan State. What is there to remember about this season so far? It was the Kansas, I think, was maybe the best story. They lost. Story. And that's almost Magic's kind of worn off on that one.
Yeah. App State for a couple weeks.
The App State thing for a couple weeks. Yeah, the game day was awesome. It's just been a really depressing year. I don't know why that is. I think maybe if Texas had beat Alabama, I wouldn't be feeling that way. It would be a little bit more of a shakeup. But it's just, I don't know what do you remember from this year?
I mean, a decent story. Yeah, a decent story that no one really cares about. But the 2 teams coming to the Big Ten, USC and UCLA, they're both undefeated, and that hasn't happened in a while. But they're out there on the West Coast, so no one over here really cares much about that. It has mostly been same old, same old. I mean, it's Ohio State, it's Clemson, it's Georgia, it's Alabama. And Georgia has stumbled a little bit. Alabama even has struggled a little bit, but they're still just winning their games. So, yeah, you got to hope for some upsets. You got to hope Mississippi State pulls an upset, or Ole Miss pulls an upset, or Auburn in the Iron Bowl pulls an upset, because otherwise we're going to be back with the same 4 teams. You hope Michigan, slips in there. But, I mean, we'll see. Maybe USC ends up making a run, and they slip into the playoff. That'd be exciting to see. But
we'll see once Michigan really gets into the heart of their schedule. Even this Michigan season, it's like we had the JJ McCarthy boost. That almost seems to have already kind of became like we don't even really care that much. He's our quarterback now.
Right.
That kind of got us through the first few weeks, but these last few weeks just been a slog.
I definitely think if McNamara hadn't got hurt, JJ's playing fine. I don't think he would have lost the job, but there might have been that little bit of drama. If McNamara was over there on the sidelines, watching, there might have been that ooh, are they going to bring him in? What's going on? He got hurt. So now it's just it's JJ's team, whatever.
Fair points, Jared. I guess I would just say, being the guy that's watched this forever, November's around the corner. I think, we get to November, we're going to see some of these matchups and some of these better games. I think that means something. And we'll be back on board. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm tuned in every week for Michigan. I'll watch Michigan State, though. I don't intently watch it, but there hasn't been any other, other region games that I've really said, man, I got to sit down and watch this game. I got other stuff I'm doing, and I just catch up on the football final there on ESPN, get all the football that I need.
That's the way to do it. There's been some good SEC games. I'm not going to be biased down here, but there's been some good SEC games.
Yeah.
But
well, Tennessee, that's a big story, right?
It's a big story. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Ole Miss is looking good.
Yeah.
Kentucky did lose this week, but
it's been a slow start to the season. I hope it ends, with some fireworks, which I think it will. Especially, like I said, Tennessee coming down the stretch is kind of a third giant in the SEC. See how that plays out. But it's just so to this point, it's been an underwhelming season.
Yes.
Yep.
Agreed. Well, something that's not underwhelming is some of the stuff in entertainment. And we'll have a little Tedtertainment special coming up right after this.
All right. So usually Tedtertainment tonight. I mean, Ted, you probably do down below. You're looking at your notes. You probably got about 9 things you've been watching.
I got bullet points. Yes, I do.
We haven't done Tedtertainment tonight in a couple of weeks, but I just want to mention a few things that we've been watching. So a few weeks ago, you mentioned a documentary or a show that you watched about a whole artificial fertilization sperm bank situation going on. But there's a documentary on Netflix, Our Father, that I would recommend. It's interesting. It's kind of a little scary, a little dark, a little twisted. Basically, I'll give you the gist, not to spoiler alert. It's been out for a little while. So a doctor in Indiana, I mean, the story, obviously this happened like 20 years ago. So the story's out there, but a doctor in Indiana, he's the one that would perform the fertilizations for women who had to come in, and they were having trouble getting pregnant, and it was a sperm bank. So they had donors. He ended up using his own sperm often, daily, and multiple times a day. And come to find out, I forget the number off the top of my head. It's pushing 100. He has over 100 kids, and a couple of the kids, took this, started taking this very seriously, and wanted to press charges and do all this stuff. 23andMe and all these services come out where you can see your roots and find your your lineage and all that kind of stuff. And they started getting all these matches. And a lot of them are in the same county or the same area. So it starts getting a little scary for them, because they're like, they have all these half siblings. Am I married to my half sibling? Did I date my half sister, in high school? There's all this kind of stuff. And you worry about incest and everything. And the weird part about it all is it came off like the doctor, because they did end up meeting him face to face, like 15 of the kids met him face to face. Came off like he didn't care. It came off like he was doing this as like a social experiment. He was doing it. It came off like, cause so when they met him, he started asking like, what do you do for a job? What do you do for a job? He was almost like testing, like, who did I win with? Ooh, I matched you with this one because you are like a doctor or something. It was just super creepy. And to hear that you had a similar show that you watched, and apparently, like I looked it up, this is not an uncommon thing. Nowadays, obviously, yes, they track this stuff a little more. But back in the day, doctors used to do this all the time. If they performed these operations, there was some sick stuff going on. They probably had some sexual pleasure involved, and they would just do this stuff. And it's like, how can people do this and think it's okay? And along those same lines, where my wife and I were also watching the Dahmer show on Netflix. How can people do this kind of stuff? And just to close my portion up, I would recommend it because it is very well done. The actor playing Dahmer is incredible. I read that he had to decompress after they filmed the show because he was like, I feel like sick. I have to get away. The show is creepy. If you know the story of Dahmer, it's very creepy. So it makes sense. My wife is only half watching it because she's creeped out by it. So, but if you can handle that stuff, which I know, Ted, you can, it's a very good show to watch.
It's Evan Peters as the actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. American Horror Story. Never Back Down. He's actually a comedic actor in that movie, which is a movie I used to watch when I was a little kid. I don't understand these shows. I never have.
It's true story.
Ted, you will sit there and shit on, Call of Duty as, rotting kids' brains. This is on Netflix for your grandchildren to watch at the palm of their hands, man. This is the type of weird stuff that we watch nowadays. Why do we have to? Why is this even a show, Matt? You can maybe explain or defend it. What do I need to relive the Dahmer trilogy for? He's a weirdo, man. I don't get this serial killer thing. It's everyone. It's not just you guys. Everybody. There's a reason it's so popular. There's a reason it's got big name actor Evan Peters as the lead. What is the appeal to this stuff? I've never gotten into Law and Order. Never gotten into SVSU or SVU or whatever it is. Yeah. I've never understood these things. Please explain it to me. Ted, you love it too, so you can.
I'll say real quick because I already gave my spiel before Ted. I like obviously what goes on is pretty sick. Obviously, that stuff. It is. I keep saying creepy. It's creepy. It's the psychological part. I think the like what happened to make this person so sick, and how did they get away with it for so long? And especially the ones that happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it's interesting to see like the FBI, how they handled it, police, how they, investigated. I like all that background. I think the background stuff is very interesting. What made this person so sick, all that kind of stuff.
Matt, that's right on. That is
Yeah.
the whole appeal to people that watch. I say I mean,
Right.
but it's a weird word to use, but I'm into it. I mean, my wife and I both, and my wife is one of the most meek women in the world, but why do you think Dateline's been on for like 20 years?
I don't know.
48 Hours has been on for 20 years. I mean, 2020 started off doing different pieces. And once they came across the murders, it's the whole backstory and why do people do this? And it's a sociology. I can't say the word, but it's just how people operate. How do they think? How do their minds go? And these big time serial killers, those are the ones that are, to me, the most fascinating, like the Dahmers, like the John Wayne Gacy's, like Ted Bundy. Infamous, because first of all, they get away with it, a lot of it. And then how do they do this? How do they plot this and do it for so long? It's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I am curious about it. I don't need to do more than read a little Wikipedia thing on Dahmer. The guy was a nut. There's nothing else to it. There's no event. He's just a nut. And I don't need to see him drilling into somebody's head and pouring acid into it to know that.
Calling him a nut, that's saying it lightly.
I know what I know. The guy.
You know what, Jared? That's fair, man. We all like what we like, and I can see your point of view too. These people nowadays that it's just like a thin red line politically. Either got to believe this or you got to believe that. I'm one of these guys, and I think all three of us are pretty clear-headed. If you got an opinion on something like that, that's okay. I'm not going to try and make you watch this stuff, but
like I said, I know. I mean, it's all over the news. It's all over social media. It's all over Netflix. I know I'm in the minority, but there is no bone in my body that wants to turn that on and watch it.
Yeah.
One, I'd be too scared to probably watch it by myself too. I just don't.
That's
I don't want the feeling of uneasiness the rest of the night. While I'm trying to watch Sunday Night Football, I just don't get it.
You'd rather watch. You'd rather watch.
Dead.
Yeah. Know that he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
You'd rather watch documentaries like the Redeem Team, the one that came out.
Exactly.
Which I haven't got to yet, but
me neither. But I thought about that today, Matt. We've had that discussion before about the Redeem Team or the Dream Team. Let me look at it this way: who would beat who? Right? Probably the Redeem Team would beat the Dream Team, if I'm being completely honest, at that stage of their careers.
Right.
But I would hedge my bet if I said you took the prime Dream Team against the same prime Redeem Team, then I don't agree. I think the Dream Team would be better. Is that a fair statement, or is that on the fence?
Yeah, no, I think if you did the prime and the prime, I think it's almost a flip of the coin. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people forget that Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, a couple other guys, they were a little past their prime. MJ, Indeed. Barkley, some of those guys were in their prime, so they were good. To me, we've had this discussion. It's all about today's players are just so much better. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And I know, Ted, you don't agree. The old school guys don't agree, but I just think overall, they would run them off the floor. They would just
but the Redeem Team wasn't that far removed from the Dream Team era.
Like 20 years,
I will say
20 years, was it?
I can't I can't say that like I said, both were in their prime. I can't say that the Redeem Team would beat them. I don't know. I'm not a smart enough basketball mind.
Yeah.
Especially when you got Jordan, man. He's almost like all bets are off. Maybe they still would beat him, even if they're not in their prime with Jordan. I don't know. Yeah. But the Redeem Team, man, this doc, I haven't started it yet. Just dropped I think on Friday night it came out. I'm intrigued, man. It's 10 parts, which makes me think that it's gonna be a little bit bloated. I don't think we need 10 part on a 2 team that was around for like a month. I don't think we need 10 parts on it. I mean, we had 10 parts on Michael Jordan's entire career. So that's a good little thing to base it off of. But I'm excited. I think there's going to be a lot of cool, behind the scenes type stuff. I mean, that was right when iPhones were kind of starting to come around, video cameras, a lot more stuff is kind of recorded. at that point than if we had a documentary about, the dream team. So I'm excited to see, some of the behind the scenes stuff. So I can't wait to see our review on that in a couple weeks. I'll have one next week for us at least. One show that I'm up to date on, Ted, you are not. Matt, you have sworn off of Game of Thrones in general. So I know you're probably never going to watch it.
He's not watching it.
Also The Dragon. It's a great show. Great show. Just started watching it a couple days ago, caught all the way up basically to tonight's episode. I think it might be better than Game of Thrones. One, look at the budget. I mean, you just compare it to what the budget was for like Game of Thrones when it first came out. Nowhere near. I mean, 200 million was put into this season of this show. And I could say maybe Game of Thrones is maybe better as a whole, but if you take season 1 of Game of Thrones and season 1 of House of Dragon, it's not even close. House of the Dragon almost picks up as if it was like season 5 of Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's cool about this show is Game of Thrones was all over the 7 kingdoms, all these different stories, all these different people. This is just all in on the Targaryen dragon family, basically, as they are known in the show, which is Daenerys is what she was. She was a Targaryen in the original Game of Thrones. The acting in the show is great. The amount of dragons in this show is incredible, and there's 17 different ones. Ted, I know you've seen the first few episodes. I mean, Daemon Targaryen, played by Matt Smith, just jumps off the screen. I mean,
he's good. He's good.
He's great. The King's a great actor too, as well. Mm-hmm. Paddy Considine, I found his name. Yeah, but it's got all the stuff you love about Game of Thrones, but it's not all over the map. You feel like you really know these characters in this show because it just sticks with this one family. There's all the great dialogue, the politicking, and the battles, of course. It's just a great show, and I'm loving it every second of it. Ted, I can't believe you stopped it for 3 episodes. I don't know how you didn't keep rolling.
Well, there's a lot on my plate, but I agree with. I'll catch up to it probably in the next couple of days. It is really good, and I'll just you said enough about it. I'll just add that what I always say. It's HBO, so I mean it's good. That's all there is to it. My segment, I got a couple things. I normally would bring it up in the catch-up portion of the program, but I continue my YOLO tour and went down to Little Caesars last week and saw The Who with 2 of the original members, Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey. I don't know how many more dinosaur shows I'll attend, to tell you the truth, though. We got tickets. They're $100 tickets, but they were up high, decent seats, but not great, but it's $100. And, if I want to go see live music, and these guys are definitely up there in age, and they had a few technical problems at Little Caesars. I mean, Daltrey's microphone, he had some issues with it for a couple songs, and Townsend, who is legally deaf, he had an issue with he had his headphone thingies in, and he was running through the Bluetooth on his iPhone, and he was having problems with that. And but on the plus side, they played all their hits.
I was gonna say,
no, that was the negative. I was really looking forward to seeing them. They had a full orchestra with them. They played a whole complete first set with the orchestra backing them, which was fantastic. Then in the middle, they sent the orchestra away, and then they had their band play, and their drummer, by the way, their drummer from before was Keith Moon, one of the best rock drummers ever. Well, the guy that's the drummer now is Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey. And this guy is the real deal, man. I can't tell you, when we were watching the band, we were focused on the drummer. I don't know about you guys. I really think a drummer does drive a good rock band. But anyway, the band played in the middle section, and then the orchestra came back out at the end. They finished up with Baba O'Reilly with the big violin, virtuoso, and it was tremendous. It's the only show I've ever been to, though, with a big time concert. With no,
do you know what is that song most prominently known for? Baba O'Reilly,
some television show, I'm guessing.
Joey Chestnut's entry music.
Oh, it is.
It's incredible, man.
It's a great song.
Just for that reason.
It's a great song, man. And they played it well. But overall, on a 3-point scale, I would say it was probably 2.2, with the technical difficulties, right. And, the vocals were a little off at times, but it was still a good show. And I'll share this with you guys. You go to a concert and you kind of make friends with your seatmates next to you, and these 2 ladies came in and sat down, and this one older lady was sitting right next to me, and she's going, will you video this one song for me? I don't think I can handle it. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And so like the second song in, she hands me her iPhone and I'm holding it up there, going, Jesus. So I'm holding it up there, videoing it for her. And then I give it back to her after the song. And now
This sounds like hell, man.
I was a little annoyed, right? So anybody out there that's a Howard Stern fan, she sounded just like Tanman, one of his whack packers. But anyway, about 3 songs later, she nudges me to hand me her phone to video record, and I said, listen, you can handle it, babe. And I turned away, ignored her the rest of the
Dear
time.
God, man, this sounds. I'm sorry. I was all in on your YOLO life journey, but this sounds like hell. This might have scared you back into your house for the next few weekends. Man.
Yeah, no.
Well, you gotta stick to the Chi-Town shows that are a little more intimate. Floor seats basically.
Yeah, and
Everyone
$7 to get in.
Right.
And we had free tickets.
I get a picture of you like you're probably I know how you probably operate. You're probably so excited to see who you're gonna be sitting next to. The fact that you're already going into this older band's like concert, you're probably just hoping that there's like some young fellers like next to you just to kind of liven it up a little bit. You sit down, you see 2 80-year-olds next to you, man. It probably took the wind right out of your sails.
Well, not quite that old, but they were annoying because I'll tell you this: there was 2 women came together, and I went with my brother-in-law Joe Smith, and he got up to go to the bathroom or something. She was trying to wave him down to buy her a beer. I mean, come on,
God,
get out of here, right? Leave us alone. But anyway, the opening act was pretty good. It was a guy called Stephen Page, and he was one of the founders of the Bare Naked Ladies, and he was playing some Bare Naked Lady songs, real good. Nice. So that was good. Overall, the night was decent. I will finish up on music. Just a music review here. I watched a documentary on Showtime called Nothing Compares, and it was about Sinead O'Connor. Do either one of you guys know who she is?
Yeah. She sang that song, and Prince wrote it.
Prince wrote it, yep. And then she became very controversial because she was on Saturday Night Live and ripped up a picture of the Pope, right?
Yeah.
Well, this documentary was absolutely fantastic. It painted the whole picture of her rise through the career. She was an Irish singer, kind of like Bono of U2, and she got abused as a kid, and it had something to do with the Catholic Church, and you got the whole background about what she was all about. I would highly recommend, if you're a music fan, especially from that era, it's on Showtime. Sinead O'Connor.
What was the one Prince song she sang?
Nothing compares
to you. Yeah.
The one that made her famous.
Yeah, that's a great song.
It is.
So I watched that, and then I did watch one more music documentary. Just watched it last night. I was flipping through Netflix, and the ZZ Top documentary was really good.
Nice.
So that's my entertainment contribution here tonight.
Nice.
Love it.
Yes. But I'm gonna
gotta love those music docs. Once you get to Dahmer, I'll be curious to hear your review.
Like these untold documentaries they keep shelling out, like the sports ones. Ted's like on the feeder system for these music ones. They just they recreate them, different bands, same sort of shell, and just keep uploading them. And Ted's eating them up.
Well, it's funny, you guys you see Dahmer, like you mentioned, Jared. Dahmer's everyone's talking about social media. Everyone's talking about this show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on Netflix. If you hop on Hulu, there's like 3 different versions of the show. Like they put it on the home screen because they know everyone's talking about it. So let's put this stuff in everyone's face. Yeah. And it is kind of like just different versions. Different actors, maybe a different spin. Stuff like that. But this is the one to watch with the lead actor and all that. This is the one to watch.
Hulu has a couple that they're putting up there, trying to get people sucked in, thinking it's the one that everybody's talking about. That's pretty good marketing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone knows the one everyone's talking about is the one on Netflix. Because
it's pretty formulaic how they do it, man. Like we saw with Bundy. Get a star actor, Zac Efron, and put him in this series. And
and then next thing you know,
who's the next? Who's Wayne Gacy? He'll be the next one. It'll be played by I don't know, whoever looks like him.
Jim Belushi.
Seth Rogen.
There you go, Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, I think we made it through the podcast. This has been presented by Memorial Healthcare. Check out the Walk-In Sports Injury Clinic every Monday through mid-October at the new Now Community Wellness Center. Cold weather's here, so get healthy. Consider a membership at the Wellness Center. Also, Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry with many convenient locations throughout Michigan. Use that coupon code at the Corunna store. That's 3.20, 20% off your first purchase, and check out the Skymint Reserve. In other words, the good stuff. Also, follow us at 3 Point Pod. Spread the word. I mean, we've been growing. We got a lot of good positive response lately, especially with our interview with John Webb, the head coach of Durand. A lot of people like that, tuned in. That was good to get the feedback, wasn't it?
No, it's always good to get the feedback that people listen and appreciate the, just being honest, appreciate the effort that we put into this. We have fun with it, but it's always cool to get that feedback. But when people share away, if you listen and you think someone might like it, share away, put it on your Facebook, all that kind of stuff.
Keep it growing, baby. I know our partners definitely approve of that, and they include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Special thanks to high school playoff guru Snooze. You can follow him at Snooze to You. And this episode of 3 Point Podcast was recorded at StreamYard.com. I was talking a little earlier about concerts. Chi-Town, big show coming up at the Twisted Bull in Grand Rapids, October 22nd. That's one of both your boys' stomping grounds up there in GR. So if you're in the area, go check out Chi-Town. Also, our Castle game of the week this week, Ionia at St. John's. It's Hall of Fame night over there in the Mint City. So if you get a chance, check that out. And then also definitely check us out. Until next week, so long, everybody. Peace and love, be kind, and thanks for listening.